these eyeballs have many, many little tiny steps. So I am going to go through each one for you in the video. I'm going to review a little bit from last week because I know we did some steps in last week's video. And then I'm also going to give you a printout. So if everybody's at a different stage, then all you have to do is look at the printout and go from step number 8 to step number 9, and you're going to be just fine. Just kind of pay attention to where you are in your progression of this eyeball. To review, we're going to color the pupil nice and dark with your Sharpie. Add a highlight to the pupil, cutting out and gluing. Then watercolor the iris in circles. Any color you want to pretty much will do, and let it dry completely. Once it's dry, we're ready for the next step. This is all completely dry. So now we're going to put some lines in here, and we're going to use this same black ballpoint pen that you used on your owls. And you're just going to make big ovals that go from the pupil all the way outside. We're going to cut this out so you can go all the way outside. And you can just make ovals that go all the way around that iris. That's going to give that iris some texture. Okay, I'm working those ovals back and forth. Sometimes my pen stops working on the watercolor, so I just get it started again on the newspaper. And I'm just making those nice ovals. Then step back and make sure they're pretty consistent. I think I could use a couple more over here. And there you go. All right, second option. Let me show you that. All right, so the second option is to kind of scribble scrabble just about 1/3 of the way up, all the way around on the inside around the pupil, and then scribble scrabble about 1/3 of the way down. Remember, you can go outside to get the eyeball because we're going to cut it out. Don't make your scribble scrabble lines start going this way. You want them all to work towards the center of that pupil or that eyeball. And then every, I don't know, 1/2 inch or so, kind of extend it up there. And you can even add a couple of little flakes here and there in that tired old eyeball. All right? So use that ballpoint pen. Just kind of pick and choose which technique you think you like. This is one place, holy cow, I'm going to say it, where you can pretty much scribble. I know Miss Doherty never says that. So here we go. Take advantage of it. Have fun with it. And give your eyeball a little bit of disgusting texture in there. Okay? Then finally, just to give it a little bit more depth, right around this edge, this outside edge, I'm going to do a little bit more scribble scrabble right around here. I'm not going to make it solid. I'm just sort of shading it a little bit so it's darker around the edges. Just remember, your eyeball is that. It's a round sphere. It's a ball. And so we want it a little bit darker around there. But I don't want to make it solid. And remember, you can go outside that line. That's fine. Make sure your name is on the back, because once we cut these out, they'll just be floating eyeballs all over the place. So there we go. It kind of gives it a little bit of creepy depth. And then I could go back on this one and do exactly the same thing. All right? All right, when you've got it as ugly and disgusting as you want it, then very carefully cut on the black line. And just cut that whole thing out right there. Some of it will get cut off. That's okay, we want that cut off. But you'll see where that original black line is. There we go. And next, you're gonna get a big white circle. So you can see how that is all gonna fit together. I like to just lay it down in the center and very lightly, very, very lightly, because you're going to want to erase these lines, just sort of trace around it a little bit. All right, there we go. So you can kind of see where that will be glued down, and we can work on the outside part. So now we're going to create some bloodshot in the white part of our eye. And it's just like making the branches of a tree or even a tree. We're going to do it in pencil first, mainly because we want to make sure it's consistent all the way around. We don't want a whole lot of bloodshot on one side and then hardly anything on the other side. So watch, I'm going to just kind of bring it up, all wiggly jiggly. These are never straight. And then put some branches on it and some branches coming off the branches. There you go. All the way up to that circle and maybe just a smidge beyond, and then stop. Then maybe the next one comes down. So it might come from your circle here. I'm going to bring it inside just a little bit. And you can make your tree go this way with your branches. And then stop. Then you can go back maybe the other way. And they don't even have to grow perfectly straight up and down. They can kind of, so you can see I'm just giving it a little bit of a wiggle jiggle. Now where you're going to go wrong is if you start making it go this way. That's not going to look good, okay? Or you give it too many wiggles, okay? You have to really just sort of make it like a simple tree, okay? And you're going to have them coming up from the bottom and down from the top. So we'll give you a second to work on that. When you get finished, step back and look at it. Make sure it's nice and consistent all the way around. If you've drawn anything a little bit too dark, then go back over it with your eraser and just kind of lighten it up a little bit, because we don't want it to show all those big black lines. And then we're ready for some color. As you can imagine, bloodshot lines are going to be red. So here we are. I'm going to get a couple of these red Sharpie pens, and you are just going to kind of go right over these lines and Sharpie in those good veins. Now some of them are going to be just a little bit thicker than others, like especially right here, maybe at the base of your tree. You can kind of make it a little bit thicker, and you're just going to trace those over and get yourself some nice blood cruising through those eyeballs. Okay, so you remember my little sad friend here. Let's talk about a few things that you do not want to do. One is you don't want to make the base of this tree way too thick. That is not how your eyeball works. And every branch should just be one line thick, not like this. That's not going to work either. You can't just start making it fat in the middle of nowhere. All right? The other thing is when you make a branch come down to another branch, you don't want to continue through. That's going to look really weird. You need to make sure you stop right there. Like this one comes around and stops right there. Okay, so this kind of busting through thing doesn't work for you. So a couple things to think about. Remember, you can go outside the eyeball and you can go inside this ring. Okay, so I could bring like this up here or this one all the way inside that ring, because this other part will be glued right on top of it, and that'll be fine. All right, even if it's the trunk that's up here, you can bring it inside this ring, and that's going to be fine. But just make the trunk really super thin, not massive. Okay, so just kind of nice, thin, graceful lines on there. Once all your veins are outlined, erase your pencil lines really good, including that circle that we made through the middle. Then you're going to watercolor wash around just the outside of the eyeball. So I'm going to put down some water first. Then I'm going to get a little bit of red paint and I'm just going to put it in there. I really kind of want some pink in the eyeball. I don't want it so red, but I just want a little bit of pink. So I'm going to try to use a little bit more water, and it's just a little bit around the edge. There we go, blend it in. So I used a wet and wet here. I wet the paper first, then I really put the red paint out here on the border that's going to be cut off so that it would bleed through and I would get a little bit of pink into the eyeball. I'd rather not have it so dramatically red right there. I just want a little bit of pink so that it'll blend with those red veins. I don't want to go too far into the eyeball, just around the edge, okay? So we're going to let this watercolor dry completely.